The description of the object, of course, was it's brighter than the sun, whatever it is, and it's hard to describe. The location was southwest of the sun at sunset. So it wasn't very far southwest. It was very close to the sun, just slightly southwest of the sun. I made it my obligation to capture the image with a camera, and did so 3 days later at sunset. This as verification of his proposition that he had indeed discovered it and knew the magnitude and brightness of the object, because the telescope was expensive enough that it had told him the magnitude and brightness of the object, and that he wished it to describe to me. It turns out there was scattered sunlight in the west, and in the east the storm was brewing and the sky was completely black with water crystals. As I turned from the light source, which was bright white light, I noticed in the reflection of the water 2 reflections. I also noticed in the clouds a polarized effect where I could see clearly 3 objects. I did so by capturing these objects, specifically with my webcam and my computer laptop, and I simply aimed my camera at the source 180 degrees in the clouds and in the water, and there they were, bright as day. Now, this is considered Comet Ison. Comet Ison wasn't discovered until September 2012 by 2 Russian astronomers. The fact is, we had discovered it, and it was based on my hypothesis that there existed such an object in 2010 of April, and indeed verified this with a telescope and captured the object. It dawns on me now that this is an impossible case. Even if this was a comet, the smaller radius object in close proximity to the second light source was a comet, it wouldn't be bright enough to see 3 years away from us. In other words, at 3 years away, there would be no possible way for it to measure a brighter than sun magnitude. This is what they had done, and this is what they are doing to fool the public, and they are calling it 15 times brighter than the sun, than the moon. It's 15 times brighter than the moon. When it gets here in November through January, okay, what we do know is the Southwest Observatory, the Southern Pole Observatory, was placed there to observe an object that was supposedly the second sun. Certain images occurred that made us believe so, and all eyes are on the second sun. Well, NASA had given us some clear images, and we also have in 1980 the shooting star, the so-called shooting star with a tail, actual shooting star with a tail that NASA had provided, which is indeed the same object. On top of that, we have proof after proof after proof, and then we discover science, and science dictates to us that this is the case. So we refer to X-ray astronomer Walter Lewin, and we listen to his lectures on precession, and he describes to us the external force placed on the axis, and as he describes it, the axis simply tilts. And we had already verified this as actual occurrence in 2010 and 2011 and even 2012, when NASA announced the axis of the Earth was shifted by the Great Earthquake of February 27th and March 11th. Yeah, there's nothing out there that could do that, unless there was an external force placed on the axis. I've discovered James Clerk Maxwell's poems years ago and have deciphered them and understood them as becoming part of this theory, continuity twerking, here as continuity. He gives us the formula to find continuity. I say that this is an oblique spheroid that acts as a water balloon and has a pressure. There's continuum dynamics. We have angular momentum changes in acceleration, and therefore we have storms immediately formed as a result. As the axis occurs past the equinox, which was in September of this year, we should lean our axis to a greater degree to one side or the other. And it is my opinion we shift our axis to the west, leading to a strain on continuum dynamics and Earth, East Coast, all Earth, East Coast, coastal cities, islands, etc., would suffer the strain closest to November 1st to October 1st at the end of the year. This simply because we'll be aiming as far to one side or the other during this period of time. So it's easily to understand that a storm is not necessary to create flooding in some of the regions that already have suffered on the East Coast, particularly Hurricane Sandy. We would see a higher king tide come the next 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and I'm looking out and reporting my findings due to the previous years of data that pointed to significant flooding of the beaches without a low tide for months. Comet Ison swings around the sun at 800,000 miles an hour, supposedly traveling at 60,000 miles an hour at its current rate and accelerating. There'll be short circuits, and there'll be solar eclipse, and there'll be short circuit as far as EMP, or a weaker magnetic field, auroras out the wazoo, and insolence will have extreme heating of the oceans, particularly in the Devil's Triangle and Jamaica region. Now that we have an understanding of that, I refer to my Ice Age model. The Ice Age model, I depict axial shift, and I give actual data as to volcano eruption and methane gas melting in the oceans, along with other types of rarefaction of the Earth's atmosphere due to induction and solar radiation reaching the Earth's surface. This is the true nature of global warming. And also, my Ice Age model predicts that the airflow is now continental, actually Antarctic, tropical continental, which means the cold air mass above Antarctica is moving to the north. It's that easy to understand. And if you do the math and you find the position and you realize that the bubble has shifted just enough to cause this to happen, over time the North Pole will become the Southern Pole. On top of that, James Clerk Maxwell gave me his formula with continuity twerking and left some key evidence. One of these evidences is the omega. The omega is the last letter in the Greek alphabet, the alpha being the first. As the omega, he states, is a heavy chain lying on a smooth horizontal plane, comes in on a wave, that it reaches a zero potential. It has to do work to get there. But only for a matter of fact, it rests. And as it swings around the sun, it has that rest period for 1 split second again, and there's equal potential, according to James Clerk Maxwell, and his work that he did on electricity. And we must agree that this is the case. But one key hint about being dragged by the heels and giving Omega the due that it deserves, that Earth's nodding head, his grim nodding head, will carry naught, can be explained through science. And when you understand that as the vector of this Omega had come in towards the sun, it was closing in a sharper angle, and as the Omega slingshots away from us, it'll be an increasing angle. I call this increasing angle theta. And Walter Lewin describes to us that the increasing angle, the Earth will follow the torque. The axis will follow the torque. Therefore, I come to the conclusion that the axis will shift to a greater degree as we are dragged by the heels. Gravity will be doing negative work, and we will be being dragged by the heels, and our grim head will mainly nod, in this case, to the northwest, to the northeast, or to the north-south. South, where are we going? East, south, doesn't matter. We'll be nodding on our axis. That could put us closer to the equator. But this is where the real destruction comes from. Within the next 3 to 5 years, we should see results, specific results that are attributed to science and not mumbo jumbo. We have angular momentum changes. We have the Earth splitting as a water balloon. We have Einstein telling us that all the plates will shift to the east. He's correct. We have redshift, we have planetary perturbations, and we have debris. We have an amazing comet that most likely is orbiting another object. And that amazing object has partners, perhaps Hartley 1 and Compass 4. Those comets that are periodic for 6 years. To move forward from here, you have to accept the fact that the presentations that I have given are accurate to my knowledge, and to the work that I did point to this actual occurrence rather than a made-up belief, but more along the lines of science and cause and effect, and the cause and effect chain that leads to ice age and thermal induction and volcanic eruption and the splitting of a water balloon, the Earth, perhaps Baja and the Mexican Peninsula, Alaska, the Madrid Fault, Haiti region, Italy, and more continued problems for India and Russia. Well, is all predictable for the next 3 to 5 years. I don't mean to scare you. I mean to bring global warming to an end, and once and for all, bring attention to what is actually occurring to cause it.